Most people spend their entire lives waiting for the right time, the right job, or the right opportunity. But wealth doesn't wait. It moves. It flows toward those who are prepared, not those who are merely hopeful. The wealthy don't get rich by chance, they get rich by design. And that design starts with one question: who must I become to attract the life I want? So, if you're waiting for your circumstances to change before you grow, you've got it backwards. Change doesn't come to the idle, it comes to the intentional. It comes to those who invest in their mind, their discipline, and their value. Because the marketplace pays for value, and value is something you build. So tonight I want to take you on a journey not just about money, but about becoming. Because if you change, everything will change for you. If you grow, your income will grow. Your opportunities will grow. Your life will grow. Wealth is not something you chase. It's something you attract by the person you become. Let me tell you, one of the greatest turning points in a person's financial life is when they stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like an investor. It's a quiet shift at first, almost invisible. But once it happens, the way you move through the world changes forever. You stop seeing money as something to burn and start seeing it as something to plant. You stop chasing comfort today, and you begin building security and abundance for tomorrow. That shift in perspective, what you do with a dollar, can determine whether your future is built or broken. You see, most people are trained by society to think like consumers. From the time they're young, they're taught how to spend money, how to buy what's trending, how to indulge desire, how to upgrade for status. But no one teaches them how to grow money. No one tells them that the same dollar that buys lunch could also buy a share of the company making the lunch. No one explains that a $100 shopping spree today could have been $1,005 years from now if planted in the right soil. The wealthy understand this. They've trained themselves to delay gratification, not to punish themselves, but to position themselves. They ask different questions. Where the average person asks, "What can I buy with this money?" The investor asks, "What can I build with it? What will it grow into? What will it produce later?" That's the fundamental difference. I remember years ago, I had a friend who every time he got paid would immediately head to the store to reward himself. New gadgets, fancy dinners, expensive shoes, she called it living. But I watched him live paycheck to paycheck, year after year, always wondering why he couldn't get ahead. On the other hand, I had another friend who every time he got paid would pause. He'd sit down with his notebook, look at his priorities, and decide how much of that money would go to work for him. Not just what to spend, but what to invest, where to plant it, what to study. 5 years later, that second friend was free. Not because he got lucky, but because he got discipline. One thought differently, the other just consumed. You have to start looking at every dollar in your hand like it has a job. The question is, are you going to let it go on vacation, or are you going to put it to work? Will that dollar just disappear into something fleeting, or will it multiply into something meaningful? The wealthy assign their dollars like soldiers in an army with strategy, with purpose, and with long-term vision. Now, I'm not saying you can never enjoy your money, but enjoyment should follow purpose. Buy the dinner after you've invested in your future. Get the new suit after you've set up your savings. Spend with freedom, but only after you've first built with intention. That's how you enjoy your life without sabotaging your wealth. A good exercise I recommend is this. For the next 30 days, every time you go to spend money, whether it's $1 or $100, ask yourself one question. Is this an expense or an investment? Now, I'm not just talking about financial investments. I'm talking about investments in your health, your relationships, your education, your skills. Buying a book can be an investment. Taking a course can be an investment. Giving to someone in need can be an investment in character. But a $200 pair of shoes you don't need, that's an expense. A new phone when the old one works just fine, that's an expense. The trick is becoming aware, because awareness is the first step to wisdom. When you start making that little distinction, expense or investment, you'll begin to see patterns in your behavior. And once you see the pattern, you can change it. You'll shift your thinking from what feels good now to what creates more good later. That's the investor mindset. It's not about denying yourself forever. It's about building a life so abundant that you can one day enjoy what most people only dream of, without guilt, without debt, without fear. And here's what's beautiful. This shift doesn't require you to make more money. It just requires you to think differently about the money you already have. If you've got $10, you've got 10 chances to make a better decision. That's the good news. Wealth isn't just in the bank account, it's in the mindset. Change your thinking and you'll change your life. There was a time in my life when I wanted to be wealthy. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted the house, the freedom, the choices. But my habits, they were average at best. I woke up late. I spent more than I earned. I was sloppy with time and casual with commitments. And then I realized my habits were fit for the man I was, not the man I wanted to become. That's when it hit me. If I didn't raise my standards, I would never raise my results. So, I made a decision that changed everything. I stopped wishing for more, and I started requiring more of myself. Here's a practice that changed my life and can change yours. Take out a sheet of paper and write down the income you want to earn, not just the dream number, but the one that would elevate your life, your family, your contribution. Now ask this, who would I have to become to earn that kind of money? What time would that person wake up? What skills would they practice? What kind of company would they keep? How would they handle setbacks? Write it down in detail, because once you define that identity, you can begin to step into it, one habit at a time. When I first did this, the picture wasn't flattering. The man who earned the income I wanted had discipline I didn't yet have. He had courage I hadn't yet developed. He said no to distractions, yes to learning, yes to building. But here's the magic. Once I saw the gap, I could close it. I started waking up earlier, reading more, surrounding myself with people who expected more from life. And slowly those small decisions changed my identity. They upgraded my standards. And when my standards changed, so did my results. You see, success isn't found in the big moments, it's found in the quiet decisions you make when no one's watching. It's whether you show up when it's inconvenient, whether you do the hard thing instead of the easy one, whether you act like the person you want to be, even before the world recognizes it. When you hold yourself to higher standards, life eventually catches up and starts handing you higher rewards. It has to. Now, raising your standards doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means refusing to settle. It means no longer accepting excuses. I should save more becomes, I must save 10% from every check. I should read more becomes, I must read 30 minutes every night. Those little shifts, those small, consistent actions rebuild your identity. And as your identity rises, your income follows. One of the best indicators of future success is the quality of the standards you live by today. Are you doing what's easy or what's necessary? Are you comfortable or are you committed? The wealthy don't wait for motivation, they build discipline. They don't need outside approval, they act according to internal principles. And above all, they don't chase wealth. They become the kind of person wealth is drawn to. You can start this process right now. It doesn't cost $1. All it takes is a decision to stop living below your potential. Write your new standards down. Read them daily. Align your schedule, your environment, your circle, and your energy to match that vision. Don't just raise your goals, raise the habits that are worthy of those goals. Because when you finally decide that success is not optional, your life begins to move like it's inevitable. Let me tell you something that completely altered the trajectory of my life. Reading. Not reading for escape, not reading just to pass the time, but reading with purpose. Reading to grow. The day I stopped treating books like entertainment and started treating them like mentors, my entire financial future started to shift. You see, if you spend your whole life only watching and scrolling, you'll become a spectator in the game of success. But if you read the right books, with the right intent, you gain access to thoughts, strategies, and philosophies that most people will never even stumble upon. I remember the first time I read a serious book on personal finance. It didn't just inform, make, transform me. It gave me words for problems I had, and it handed me tools I didn't even know existed. I didn't wait until I understood it perfectly. I didn't wait until I had a degree in economics. I just decided, if I want to think better, I have to feed my mind better. It's the most affordable, most direct, and most repeatable way to elevate your mindset and your money. And here's the strategy. It's simple. 1 book a month. That's it. Choose a subject that matters. Money, mindset, leadership, negotiation, wealth, sales. Pick something that makes your brain reach and your soul stretch. Not fluff foundation. I'm not talking about fiction, fantasy, or filler. I'm talking about the kind of book that makes you put it down every 5 pages and say, why didn't someone tell me this earlier? Once you've picked your book, set aside 15 minutes a day. Just 15, not 2 hours. Not a weekend retreat. A small daily block. Read slowly. Underline what stands out. Write down what hits you. Then, and this is what most people don't do, apply one principle from that book every week. Just one. You don't have to master the whole thing. You don't need to quote the author at dinner. You need to act on one thing. I've known people who read 100 books and stay broke. Why? Because they treat knowledge like decoration, not direction. Don't just collect IDs, turn them into income. Turn them into discipline. Turn them into change. That's how you shift from mental clutter to personal power. One man I mentored started this simple process. His first book was about money habits. He read it for 15 minutes a day, and by the second week, he'd already cut 2 unnecessary subscriptions. By the third week, he had set up his first investment account. By the end of the month, he'd saved more than he had in 6 months. Not because of Meshik, because of method. He read, he wrote, he acted. Reading alone isn't the key, it's the discipline behind it. That little window of time you set aside every day, that's not a break from your life. That's the bridge to your better life. That's your daily appointment with your future self. The wealthy understand this. They don't ask, do I feel like reading? They say, I must feed my mind. I must renew my thinking. I must learn something today that will pay me back tomorrow. You can start today. Go to your shelf or your library or your favorite bookstore. Pick one book that speaks to your next level, not your comfort zone. Make a commitment not just to finish it, but to use it. Because the difference between average and wealthy is not luck, talent, or timing, it's habits. And reading done with intent is one of the richest habits you can develop. Your future net worth is being shaped by what you're putting in your mind today. So be intentional. Because the person who learns daily can earn abundantly. Most people spend their whole lives trying to hide their weaknesses, pretending they don't exist, or worse, making excuses for them. But here's the truth. Weakness is not your enemy. In fact, when you study it, when you face it head on, and when you choose to grow through it, your greatest limitation can become your most powerful asset. The wealthy understand something that most overlook. Your success is not about avoiding your flaws, it's about transforming them. Think about IT if you're bad at sales. For example, that doesn't disqualify you from wealth. It simply gives you your next assignment. That's the signal. That's the area where the investment of time, learning, and practice will yield the highest return. But most people run from that signal. They say, I'm just not good at that, and they stop there. But the wealthy don't stop. They get curious. They say, why am I not good at this, and how can I get better? And then they get to work. I remember years ago, I wasn't particularly organized. I'd lose notes, miss appointments, forget follow-ups. It cost me opportunities, real ones. And for a while, I just shrugged and said, well, I'm not a systems guy. But then it hit me. That weakness was costing me money, confidence, and peace of mind. So I decided to master it. I started small, index cards, a daily planner, blocking my hours. Eventually, what used to be a source of stress became a source of power. That one change didn't just clean up my desk, it cleaned up my thinking. If you're disorganized, learn time blocking. If you procrastinate, develop a 10-minute rule to start tasks immediately. If you're anxious around people, study human behavior and communication. These aren't random efforts. They are wealth-building moves. The rich become rich by identifying and correcting what slows them down. They ask, "What's the hole in my boat?" and then patch it fast. Self-awareness is the first currency of success. If you don't know what's holding you back, how can you move forward? It's not about judgment, it's about measurement. Take inventory. Sit down this week and make a list. What skills or habits are costing me opportunities? Be honest. If you're losing deals because you don't follow up, acknowledge that. If you're passing up opportunities because you doubt yourself, write it down. Don't beat yourself up. Just begin. Once you identify the pattern, assign a growth plan. If your weakness is communication, enroll in a speaking course or volunteer to lead a meeting. If your weakness is fear of rejection, start small. Send 5 outreach messages per day. Track the discomfort and lean into it. Each time you face that weakness, you weaken its grip on your future. Wealth is not reserved for the flawless, it's earned by the aware. I've met people who couldn't speak well, who stuttered, who were shy or had learning difficulties, and they still became wealthy. Not because they avoided their weaknesses, but because they owned them, worked on them, and eventually used them. The moment you stop defending your weakness is the moment you begin designing your strength. That's the key. Don't fear your flaws. Face them, fix them, flip them into fuel. This is what separates those who wish for wealth from those who work for it. The one who improves what holds them back will always move further than the one who avoids what makes them uncomfortable. You already know what your next level requires. It's written in the patterns that frustrate you. Study them and transform them, because your greatest breakthrough often hides behind your greatest blind spot. Next, time is more valuable than money. You can always earn more money, but you can't earn more time. Once it's spent, it's gone. And yet, how many people treat their time like it's worthless? They give it away to distractions, to entertainment, to people and habits that steal their future one moment at a time. The wealthy, on the other hand, understand this truth deeply. They treat every hour like an investment, and they expect a return on that investment. That's what makes the difference. Now, here's the starting point. For the next 3 days, track your time, write it down every hour, be brutally honest. Not what you meant to do, not what you planned to do, what you actually did. How many hours on your phone? How many watching something you won't remember tomorrow? How many hours lost to worry, to noise, to mindless activity? Don't judge it yet, just observe. Because once you track it, you'll see the leaks. And when you see the leaks, you can plug them. I did this exercise myself years ago. I thought I was busy. I thought I didn't have time for more. But when I tracked my days, I saw hours slipping through the cracks gone to small talk, extra sleep, television. Nothing wrong with rest or leisure, but I realized I was trading too many prime hours for pennies of pleasure. And so I made a decision. I chose to reclaim just 1 hour a day. Not the whole day, just one. That was manageable. That was powerful. And I used that hour for me. I call it the millionaire hour. 1 hour that belongs to your future. You block it, you guard it, and you use it wisely. Maybe you spend it reading. Maybe you write. Maybe you plan your finances. Maybe you reach out to potential clients or partners. Whatever you choose, just make sure it grows you. 1 hour a day may not seem like much, but let's do the math. 1 hour a day is 7 hours a week. That's over 30 hours a month. That's more than 350 hours a year. That's 9 40-hour work weeks just from reclaiming 1 daily hour. That's like giving yourself an extra full-time job dedicated to your own success. Now imagine what you could build with that. Imagine what you could learn, what you could start, who you could become. And it's not just about time, it's about what you do with it. You don't need 10 hours of action, you need 1 hour of intention. Focused, directed, high return use of your time. That's the kind of hour that changes lives. But you've got to schedule it. You've got to fight for it. You've got to treat it like your most precious resource, because it is. People ask me, how do I build a business while working full-time? Simple. Use your 1 hour. How do I learn a new skill when I've got a family and obligations? use your 1 hour. And the wealthy don't have more time, they just use it differently. They invest it, they multiply it. They let time compound by stacking it with skill, execution, and strategy. The truth is, your future is hiding in your calendar. Look at how you spend your day, and you'll see who you're becoming. You don't need more hours, you need more purpose inside the hours you already have. Reclaim just one and use it to build, to grow, to rise. In the end, it's not the hours you work that matter, it's the hours you own. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. When I first heard that, it hit me like a lightning bolt. I looked around at my circle good people, kind people, but not people who challenged me to grow. They weren't thinking about wealth. They weren't reading. They weren't building. They were coasting. And without realizing it, so was I. You see, environment is stronger than willpower. You may want to change, but if the people around you aren't changing, you'll slowly be pulled back into old habits, old patterns, and old limitations. So if you want to improve yourself like the wealthy do, you must begin by auditing your environment. Ask yourself, do the people around me talk about ideas or just gossip? Do they celebrate growth or complain about problems? Do they take action or make excuses? The answers will tell you where you're headed. Now, this isn't about judging others, it's about protecting your future. And sometimes, protecting your future means creating space for new influence. That's when you start upgrading your circle. You don't need 100 new people, you just need a few right ones. Start with one, join a mastermind, a business group, a book club focused on wealth, leadership, or self-growth. Find a local or online community where people are thinking bigger, learning faster, and executing daily. Even if you just listen at first, just being in that atmosphere will shift your mindset. I remember joining a small group of entrepreneurs when I was just beginning to figure things out. I barely had a business. But every week, I sat at that table and listened. They spoke a different language, one of action, of ownership, of possibility. I left those meetings with my mind stretched and my spirit lifted. That group didn't just inspire me, they changed my expectations of myself. Suddenly, mediocrity felt uncomfortable. Growth felt normal. That's the power of proximity. Now maybe you're thinking, I don't know anyone like that. Then you go find them. Attend a seminar. Take a class. Follow someone online and join their community. Send a message to someone doing what you want to do and ask for 10 minutes of their time. Growth-minded people love to help others grow because that's who they are. But you've got to be willing to seek them out. The door won't always open itself. Sometimes you knock. Sometimes you build the door. And let me say this, not everyone will come with you. When you start growing, some people will get uncomfortable. They'll say, you've changed, and you have. You're not better than them, but you're becoming better than you were. That's not arrogance, it's alignment with your purpose. And if they're not ready to grow, that's okay. Love them, respect them. But don't let them keep you small. You weren't designed for a life of quiet desperation. You were built for expansion. People often ask, what's the fastest way to level up? I tell them, change who you talk to. Get around people who expect more from themselves, and they'll expect more from you. Get around people who study wealth, who apply strategy, who invest in themselves, and you'll start doing the same. It's not magic, it's momentum, and it's contagious. In the end, your conversations will shape your destinations. So audit your circle, upgrade your input, and align with those who are heading where you want to go. Growth isn't a solo journey, it's a shared climb. When I started to take personal growth seriously, I realized something strange. We plan everything else in life, but most people never plan their growth. We plan vacations, we plan dinner, we plan what we're going to watch on Friday night. But personal development, that's left to chance. And here's the truth. Growth never happens by accident. If you want to improve yourself like the wealthy, you must grow on purpose. You must grow by design, not by default. That's when I began a practice that changed my entire trajectory, a simple weekly personal development plan. Every Sunday evening before the week began, I'd sit down with a blank notepad and ask myself 3 questions. What do I want to learn this week? What do I want to apply this week? And how will I reflect on what I learned? It wasn't a long process in minutes, maybe 15, but those minutes shaped the rest of the week. Here's the structure I used, and it works just as well today as it did then. Choose 3 simple actions tied to your goals. 1 book chapter that challenges your thinking. 1 podcast episode that builds your business or mindset. And 1 journal entry that helps you reflect, refine, and recommit. That's it. Just 3 actions a week. The key isn't quantity, it's consistency. Because when you do this every week, the compound effect kicks in. You start stacking insight upon insight, habit upon habit, until one day you wake up and you're not the same person anymore. Let me give you an example. There was a time when I felt stuck in my communication. I wasn't connecting. So I picked up a book on public speaking and read 1 chapter a week. Not the whole book at once, just 1 chapter. I listened to a podcast from a world-class speaker. Then I journaled. What did I learn? What worked when I spoke last week? What can I improve? After a few months, my delivery changed. My confidence grew. People noticed. I didn't overhaul my life. I just made a plan and stuck with it. And this method works for anything. Want to improve your finances? Pick a book on investing? Want to level up your leadership? Listen to a podcast from someone who leads at a high level. Want to build your mindset? Write about your wins, your progress, and what you're grateful for. When you grow a little bit every week, you grow a lot over time. The wealthy understand this. They don't leave their growth to chance. They build it into their week. And here's the best part. It doesn't require a huge time investment. You can do this in 30 minutes a day. Read for 10. Listen while you drive. Journal before bed. That's the schedule of champions. That's how transformation begins, not with a massive overhaul, but with a clear, repeatable plan executed consistently. Growth is not something you visit occasionally. It's a place you live. And to live there, you need a system. Sunday is your reset button. Use it to design a week that moves you forward. Review your goals. Choose your growth tools. And remember, each step compounds. Each insight stacks. And over time, this habit will make you unrecognizable from the version of you that just hoped for change. The path is simple. The plan is clear. All that's left is to follow through. I used to think confidence was something you either had or didn't. Like it was a personality trait. You're either born with it or you're out of luck. But I learned over time, through trial and a lot of error, that confidence doesn't come from how you feel. It comes from what you do. You don't overcome self-doubt by waiting for a magical surge of belief. You overcome it through consistent, committed action. That's why I say don't chase confidence, chase discipline. Confidence will catch up. The real battle isn't between belief and doubt. It's between action and hesitation. Doubt only grows in silence and stillness. When you're inactive, your mind creates stories. It tells you you're not ready. It reminds you of every past failure. But when you're in motion, when you do the work, even when it's small, those voices get quieter. Discipline drowns out doubt. And each act of follow-through tells your brain, I'm capable, I can trust myself. So how do you build that kind of discipline? Start small, not grand plans, but micro wins. Choose one thing, a simple habit, and do it daily. Maybe it's saving $5 before you spend anything. That one act tells your subconscious, I'm a person who builds wealth, not just dreams about it. Or read 10 pages of a book that stretches your thinking. Just 10 pages, not a whole chapter. Just enough to prove to yourself that you're growing. Or maybe it's reaching out to one person a day, a prospect, a client, someone who could move your business forward. Not 100 cold calls, 1 daily. That's the system I used when I started. I wasn't the most skilled or the most charismatic, but I was willing to be consistent. I didn't try to do everything at once. I did what I could, daily. And every time I kept my word to myself, every time I showed up, even when I didn't feel like it, I grew stronger inside. Not louder, not bolder, stronger. Self-doubt doesn't survive where discipline lives. Think about this. The person who saves $5 a day builds wealth faster than the one who plans to invest big but never follows through. The person who reads 10 pages a day will finish 12 books a year while most people barely start one. The person who reaches out to one new connection daily will have 365 new opportunities by year's end. These are not massive moves, they're manageable. But done consistently, they become powerful. They become identity. Because that's what you're really doing here. You're not just building habits, you're building a new identity. You're becoming someone different, someone dependable, someone focused, someone who finishes what they start. And when you become that person, wealth follows. Success follows. Because now you don't just wish for it, you've proven you're worthy of it. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for the perfect mood. Choose your habit. Commit to it. Do it daily. And let that discipline become the evidence that shatters self-doubt. I remember when I first started out, all I could see was my job title, salesman. That was it. And not even a very good one at the time. My whole identity was wrapped up in that label. When people asked what I did, I told them my position, not my potential. But as I studied wealth and success, I realized something. Profound wealth isn't tied to your job title. It's tied to the value you create. That shift changed everything. I stopped seeing myself as an earner, and I started seeing myself as a creator, a builder, a contributor. That's when my income began to grow, when I changed how I saw myself. Most people are stuck financially not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack identity. They've been taught to think like employees, not creators. They trade time for money and believe that's all they're worth. But if you study the wealthy, they see themselves differently. They don't think, how much will I get paid per hour? They think, what can I create that adds value, multiplies, and lasts? They view themselves as producers, not just participants. And here's where the transformation begins. Write this down. I create wealth through the value I provide. Don't just think it, write it, speak it. Read it every morning before your day begins. Every evening before you rest. Let those words rewire how you see yourself. Because identity drives behavior. If you see yourself as a wealth creator, you'll start acting like one. You'll look for opportunities to serve, to solve, to simplify. You'll start noticing problems in the marketplace and asking, how can I fix that? Not, how much will someone pay me to ignore it? Now, how do you reinforce this belief? With action. Thought without action is fantasy. So you need proof. Find one way today, just one, to create value. Maybe you help someone solve a problem at work without being asked. Maybe you create a digital product, a short guide, a checklist, a video that solves a specific need. Maybe you call a client and give them insight they didn't expect. These may seem small, but each act is a brick in the new identity you're building. And over time, the person who adds value consistently becomes indispensable. And do you know what that means in the marketplace? Income, influence, freedom. There was a time I worked just hard enough not to get fired, and they paid me just enough so I wouldn't quit. But once I stopped working for the paycheck and started working for the value, my income changed. Because I changed. When you see yourself as a source of wealth rather than someone begging for it, your behavior changes. You speak differently. You think more strategically. You operate with more urgency and responsibility. That's what the wealthy do. They don't chase money, they attract it by becoming the kind of person who creates it. So don't wait for a promotion or a raise to change your identity. Change your identity and watch how quickly the opportunities start arriving. Write the sentence. Speak it aloud. Take one action today that backs it up. Become a person who creates wealth, not just one who earns enough to get by. Let me leave you with a thought that is echoed through my entire journey. If you want your life to change, you must change. If you want things to get better, you must get better. The soil doesn't care what you plant, it will return weeds or wheat, poison or promise. The difference lies in what you choose to sow. And wealth, like health, like relationships, is the harvest of intentional seeds planted through your daily decisions. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So if you want more, you've got to become more. There's a reason the wealthy grow wealthier. Even when they lose it, they've become the kind of people who know how to build it back. It's not luck, it's not a secret. It's a way of thinking, living and investing in themselves. And that's the invitation I extend to you now. Don't leave your success to chance. Design it. Don't just wish for a better life, build one. And it all starts with improving yourself. You've heard strategies today, real practical shifts, from managing your time to managing your thoughts, from consuming to creating, from watching others to becoming someone worth watching. Each point we've discussed isn't theory, it's practice. Daily, deliberate, determined practice. Whether it's tracking your time, auditing your circle, applying one principle from every book you read, or repeating a new identity in the mirror, these are not small things. These are powerful pivots that, over time, will change the direction of your life. And here's what I'll promise you. You don't have to make massive change all at once. You only have to begin. A 1% improvement daily compounds into a life you wouldn't recognize a year from now. But it won't happen by accident. The winds of life blow on us all. It's not the blowing of the wind, it's the set of the sail. And the sail is your philosophy, your habits, your standards. So, take one thing from today. Just one. Apply it. Master it. Then another. Then another. Stack your disciplines. Invest in your growth like your future depends on it, because it does. Become the kind of person success is looking for. Wealth isn't looking for average. It's looking for prepared, responsible, valuable individuals who've decided to live above the line. Choose today to be that person. Remember, you can have more because you can become more. And once you become more, you'll never go back.